Welcome, my very beautiful nerd gang. Welcome to another session of Nerding Out with your favorite nerd, hopefully, me. So today, this video is going to be a little bit different from the videos that I've been doing lately, where I mostly talk about books, series, and some theories and conspiracies. Today, we're actually going to be talking about a real life case together with a book that has been on my mind nonstop. I wanted to give you guys this trigger warning because I will be discussing a case that is happening as we speak. I don't know if some of you most probably have seen it trending because it is quite a viral case. At the same time, I'm going to be discussing the book The Third Twin by Ken Follett, which for me, as I was listening to this real life case, it made me think immediately to this book. Because this is a book I read probably when I was around 16, and I think I reread it a couple of times after that, and I found it quite fascinating. But before I start, I just want to say today our topic of conversation will include murder as well as sexual assault. So if you're someone who's triggered by such topics, please feel free to opt out, and we will be back talking about something else. So let's get to it. A woman who lives alone in Ohio was recently found brutally murdered, in her home on her bed. There is clear evidence that she has been sexually assaulted because her pajamas are torn. The investigators and the police, they immediately get to work. They go through the body trying to find any kind of clue of who did this. Because the woman was found by her brother, a lot of people initially think that it was her brother, especially given the fact that her brother did not seem to perform any kind of life-saving techniques or measures. However, I can sympathize with the brother because he was in shock. He just found his sister in this brutal... I don't even want to imagine what was going through his head at that point in time. He immediately called the police, and he actually informed the police that he believes that his sister was sexually assaulted because of the fact that her clothes are torn. The police, they get to work. They do go through everything in the house, everything on the bed, and what they found is they found DNA evidence of who they believe is the perpetrator. So immediately they get to work. They start to go around the neighborhood collecting DNA from the neighbors, basically. And they find a match from one of her neighbors. And the insane part of all of this is that the match belongs to a 13-year-old. But not even that's the wildest part. The wildest part is the match is 100% match to two people. And I know a lot of people are probably wondering, what? Isn't everybody's DNA different? Aren't we all unique in our DNA, in our genetic makeup? But you do get cases where two people share the exact same DNA, and that is where you have identical twins. So in this case, the neighbor has identical twin boys, Hunter and Levi. Levi likes to go by the name Louis, and I'm gonna call him Levi. I really struggled with this a little bit because for some of you that do know, the name Levi is one that's very special to me, but I'm going to name him by his given name, which is Levi and Hunter. Levi and Hunter are 13-year-olds. The set of DNA that was found is for one person, but it is a match to both. Now the police need to figure out who did it. And so in this point in time, they have to separate the twins and basically look into them and understand, first of all, who did it between the two of them. Did they both do it? Was it a thing that they both decided they wanted to do, or did one of them do it? And this brings me to the book that I've been thinking about nonstop. I read this book, as I said, probably I was 16. This is a book that I absolutely loved. At this point in time, I was quite fascinated with the idea of nature versus nurture. And at this point in time, I was reading a lot of books about this topic. I was reading a lot of books about talking to serial killers, understanding the minds of serial killers, what turns a person into a monster, essentially. And this book by Ken Follett is one that I needed to read at that point in time. So let me give you some background story. Now that I've talked about the real case, I'm going to get back to it because we do figure out which of the two twin boys did it. But at the same time, let's talk about the book, The Third Twin by Ken Follett. So the third twin about Ken Follett is about this brilliant researcher named Janae. I think I read it quite a few years ago. Janae is researching about the topic of nature versus nature versus nurture, and she develops this basically advanced computer system that basically will enable her to identify identical twins that were raised in, like, separated at birth. And so she finds there's a glitch in her computer because she finds two people who share the exact same DNA. So they are identical twin. One of them is Steve and the other one is Dennis. Steve is this like perfect guy. Like, he is pre-law, he is intelligent, he plays sports, he's good looking, he's all of this. And then the other guy is a convicted criminal and a murderer. He is literally serving crime in jail as we speak. But the crazy thing about these two boys is that they were not separated at birth. They were born from two different women. So now we get to this case of, okay, but they have the same DNA, but they're not the same. At the same time, while that is happening, there is a serial rapist that is going around basically violating a lot of women in the campus, in the vicinity of where they work. Janae and Steve, they start to work together on trying to understand this glitch that basically happened, how he can be an identical twin with this vile guy in prison, but they don't share the same parents. While all of that is happening, Janae and Steve, they absolutely fall in love. They are, so madly in love. They fall in love. I mean, what else can I say about it? They fall madly in love. Don't fall in love with your subjects. Don't fall in love with your subject. But while all of that is happening, this serial rapist is going rampant, and he rapes one of the students in the college, in the university that Steve goes to, in the university that Janae works as a professor, where she's doing all her research. And the victim actually identifies Steve as the person who raped her. And so at this point in time, we are all like, what? Because the whole point of this was Steve is a great guy. The other guy is a criminal. He's in jail. Yes, there's a whole thing of them being like born from two different moms, but does that mean that DNA is DNA? That nature is nature? That because if people share the same DNA and one of them is a monster, does that mean that the other one is a monster? But Steve is like, I didn't do it. I was nowhere there. Like, you have to believe me. And Janae believes him. But the evidence, the DNA, the rape kit comes back and it shows that it is Steve's DNA. But Steve at that point is like, there's one guy sitting in jail right now. There's a guy. You told me that he's my twin. You told me that he's this violent person. We've met him. He looks identical to me. Maybe it's him. They go to the prison and he's still there. So he couldn't have done it. Therefore, there is a third twin. This book goes crazy. It becomes conspiracy, it becomes sci-fi, it becomes all of this. We find out that a while back there was this scientific research where they tried to create the perfect soldier. So they cloned these babies and then they implanted them on a bunch of unknowing women, and basically these women went to have their twins. So it's literally the same person was cloned multiple times. So we can't even say Steve is the original. We don't know who is the original, but there's multiple of them, like multiple of them. And that's why the name of the book is called The Third Twin. And so now it actually makes you wonder. The first twin is in jail for murder. The other twin is a serial rapist. And there's other twins that they also find that are vile, or some are like not as vile, but a lot of them actually are not great people. Does that mean that nature is winning? Why is Steve the difference? Why is he the exception? Is that his nature? Is that his DNA? Is he also going to become this vile person, or is he also this vile person? And basically what Ken Follett answers us by saying is that these clones, those that were raised by good families with great foundation, with great principles, they turned out like Steve. And those that had some kind of trauma, they turned out like Dennis, the one in jail, or the serial rapist, the third twin. But that also brings me to a long question, that a lifelong question that we've always asked ourselves. Like, I've seen people always say, if you could go back in the past and you could get hold of like baby Hitler, for example, would you get rid of him as a baby? And a lot of people said, no, I would give him like a different childhood, because nurture, will win. He'll become better if he's raised under different circumstances by different people. So if he's raised better, he doesn't become Hitler, he doesn't murder millions and millions of people. But a lot of people at the same time, they say, nature is nature, DNA is DNA. He will eventually do it, whether he's raised by a great family, whether he's raised by a horrible family, he will become Hitler. He will harm a lot of people, so let's get rid of him as a baby. My own opinion, I'm like, in life there's nuances. In life life is not black and white. We need to consider every single thing. And I was having a conversation with someone on this, and they brought up what is called the warrior gene. A lot of fiction and fantasy and all of this, they like to play around with this warrior gene, and they've turned it into like a serial killer gene that basically it's called MAOA, this gene. It basically regulates your dopamine, your different hormones, and some people with an imbalance of that are more prone to violence and everything. However, if you actually look at the science, it does say that if people have faced some kind of traumatic upbringing, that gene mutates, and that's when an individual becomes more violent, more sociopathic. So all of these different things. So nature versus nurture. Ken Follett answers it by saying, nature is nature. Steve, those urges, or whatever that they want to call it, that his gene never mutated because he never experienced trauma. So instead, he channeled all of that into sports, and he became this great sports guy and this great guy, while the others, because of their traumatic childhood and everything, they became the way that they are. I love the end of this book, because as Steve is really thinking back to this idea, thinking if he simply got lucky, if he is going to one day become like his clones, I'm not going to say his brothers, but the clones, is he gonna one day snap and hurt people? And he comes to a realization that you get to a certain age, at an adulthood age, where at that point in time, it becomes you become and I always say this to people around me, that we all have faced some kind of trauma, but we get to an age where we can no longer blame. We can hold our parents, we can hold society accountable, but at some point you need to pick up yourself and be accountable for yourself and your actions and regulate yourself. A lot of us were raised by parents who maybe threw stuff when they were angry, right? And that becomes that becomes your norm. You say, okay, if I'm angry, I'm gonna throw something. you get to an age where you decide, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a better person. I'm not going to throw things when I'm angry simply because I'm angry. You get what I mean? So basically, Ken Follett's that's how Ken Follett basically explains the nature versus nurture. For him, nurture weighs more. But however, when we come to this real case, the case of Denise, who has been murdered and sexually assaulted by a 13-year-old, the question that comes is, they share the exact same DNA. They share the exact same upbringing. You're raised by the same mom. As I was listening to this case, one of the things that I noticed about their mom, when the police were asked her to talk to her son, she shielded them. She actually asked the police not to even say the word murder or say the word, rape to her 13-year-old sons. And a lot of people are like, ma'am, it's too late. But for me, I was like, I understand. These are her babies. She will still try to protect them. She doesn't understand what has happened at this point in time. So she's, from what I've seen, and again, it's like what I've seen from a very short videotapes. From what I've seen, she seems to be a loving mother. Yes, there has been a lot of things in that family. The parents are divorced. She talks about how her children have faced some traumatic stuff. But she has loved them both to the best of her abilities, I believe. However, one of them has done this absolutely vile thing. So the police separate the twin boys, Hunter and Levi, and they start to basically interrogate them. And the way that they speak, the way both of them are actually two completely different people, in the way that they carry themselves, in the way that they speak. Hunter is very nervous. He keeps asking too many questions, by the way. He is a fanatic for true crime, and he's like, a little bit nervous. He's a little bit too talkative. And then everybody's like, did he do it? And is this because of his love for true crime? As a person that loves true crime, can you guys sit down a little bit? Rest? And then Levi is more too cool for school. He's being sarcastic, he's being so calm, and he's being all of this.
What this is like necessarily about.
No, I will explain that.
Okay. Yeah, you said that, and you said that we could help you guys like understand what's going on, or like something like that. So I'm not sure.
Do you know what we're investigating?
I mean, I know something happened down the street.
Across the street?
Or across the street.
Right.
In front of me.
Right. A woman was murdered, right? So we're trying to find out what happened.
Then they start off with some family background.
Out of state to
At the end of the day, the police basically come to Levi and to Hunter, and they say, we found a watch. We found a watch that belongs to one of you guys. And the way that the two twins basically react is where we start to see who the killer is. Other than other evidence, like the fact that Levi has some scratches that he says he got from the cat. Hunter defends his brother. I know it looks weird. He has stretches, but you understand it looks weird. But my brother, he would never. He would never. My brother, Hunter is defending the brother.
That's Lewis's farm. That's Lewis's watch.
Lewis's watch?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. What do you think about that?
What do you mean what I think about that?
Okay, let me widen it out. That's the picture. What do you think that's a picture of?
Try to take some deep breaths, okay?
We don't have any of those blankets.
Right. It's not your house.
No, I remember him saying that he lost his watch
And when did he say that?
after he got home. Also,
I'll show you one more picture.
he sounded the way he said, "I don't know where my watch is." I don't feel a person would say that. A person say it that way, knowing that they wore their watch if they did that. Are you saying he purposefully hurt?
We don't know what his purpose was. We just
Is
know
there-
he made a mistake.
How would he even do that? He's fucking disabled.
That's a great
How would he
I know.
sneak out of the house, get into the house, stab somebody? Is it true that them? Is that true? Did you find DNA evidence?
We're not gonna. Yeah. So
There's no way he would do that.
There's some stuff that happened that we can't give you details
There's
about.
no way.
You have to
There's
spend
no
it
way.
from the beginning.
If he. There's no way. It's not possible. There has to be someone who planted evidence. There has to be some misunderstanding.
Whereas in my view, Levi was like willing to go down with his brother. And that's where we see who the killer is. 13-year-old Levi sexually assaulted and murdered his neighbor. And he thought he was going to get away with it.
That knows, and not you.
How do you know that?
Because there's no other way that part of you can be in that house without you never being in there,
I can agree with that.
right? So that's why I just need an explanation as to how. I'm just trying to wrap my brain around it, you know?
Well, I have to wrap my brain around it first.
Yeah, so that's we need to wrap around together,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Can you help me with that?
I can if you help me. I can help you if you help me
How do I help you?
by telling me the truth.
I told you the truth, though.
I don't think you're telling me all the truth.
What? But I'm not lying.
Well, I think you're about how you get hurt. We have your blood in her house, and we're trying to figure out how it got there. That's the bottom line.
Well,
That's the bottom line. I mean,
you
truly.
get my blood from somewhere?
We don't need your blood. We got swabs.
I just mean, like, did somebody put my blood in that house for a reason?
Oh,
Like,
I don't know. Would you tell me? Would they? I didn't put your blood
I don't
there.
have any enemies.
I didn't put your blood there.
I mean, I'm only 13. I don't know why anybody would put my blood in a house, but I mean, who knows? Is there any more questions you have for me, or like what?
Well, I want to get past this, and we're not getting past it. You don't know, I don't know. So we're not resolving anything.
Well, I'm not sure if we can resolve it if I don't know and you don't know. Does you know?
I mean, listen, I wholeheartedly believe that there's two types of people in this world. You've got monsters, you've got people who make mistakes.
I think I
You know?
disagree with that personally.
Help us explain this.
What do you disagree with about that statement?
I just think that, you know, there's a lot of different types of people in the world. There's not monsters and people who commit mistakes.
Well, I'm simplifying things in terms of, a crime, a murder, right?
Oh.
There's two types of people who would commit a murder. There's a monster, and there's people who make mistakes. Like his
Well,
example of the...
got carried away.
Well,
Things got carried
if it's a
away.
murder, then it would be a monster, right? Because
Not necessarily.
you don't think so?
No.
Still
That is cheating. For me now, the question is, in this case, is it nature? Is it nurture? And I just want to say, I don't believe it is nature. I believe we can all overcome our nature. We can all be whatever we want to be. We don't have to, just because maybe my mom had anger issues doesn't mean that I have to have anger issues, for example. My nature does not win at the end of the day. I can be the kindest person in the world. I can choose to regulate myself, or I can choose to become a monster. In this case, where two twin boys were raised by the same mother, yes, their DNA is the same, yes, their nature is the same. Why did one become a monster? What is the answer? We never know. And that's where I am going to leave you guys today. I thought that this was quite a gruesome case. I feel so sorry for Denise's family. I pray for. I cannot even imagine what they're going through right now, especially realizing that the perpetrator is essentially a child. As for the Carter family, I don't even. I pray for Hunter, because you can tell that he genuinely loved his brother. He genuinely saw the best in him. And I know a lot of people right now are bringing back this conversation of nature versus nurture. And since these two twin boys share the exact same DNA, does it mean that the other is also capable of this? I will tell you that he is not. He's not. He can regulate himself. He can choose the kind of person that he wants to be. And you can tell by how he defended his brother, how he spoke about his mother, his parents, that he genuinely tries. He seems like a very nice young man who's going to grow up. I mean, not even a young man. He seems like because they're only 13. As for Levi, the 13-year-old who turns into a monster, I saw a lot of people speaking about the fact that he's probably going to be 21, 22 when he comes out. And a lot of people were saying he's probably going to do it again and he should never come out. Again, I have very mixed opinions when it comes to this, because a part of me says, yeah, lock him away and throw away the key. Just by looking at how he spoke about his brother, how he was probably ready to throw his brother under the bus, how he violated a woman that is older than his own mother in that way. Like, it is absolutely sickening. But at the same time, I do understand where a lot of people talk about rehabilitation and how a lot of kids who have committed crimes actually do become law-abiding citizens who live their lives and don't do anything after that. But some of them re-offend. So I have very mixed opinions. Maybe you guys can tell me, like, what do you guys think? What are your opinions on this whole situation? But that's it for me. That was a lot. I try to shy away from real life cases because I am somebody who's filled with so much empathy, and sometimes I take things a little bit too it eats me inside. Like, it genuinely eats me inside and I start to cry. And this is a case that made me cry as I was watching the videos. I will link you guys to the video. One of my favorite YouTube creators, Stephanie Sue, I don't know if I've mentioned her before, she covered the case. A lot of YouTube creators that I love, I think, have covered the case. I will link you to their videos and you can get more details about the case, because I see that I was rambling about, talking about very different things, as we often yap in this place. But I don't think I'm going to be discussing any other real life case. It just takes a lot out of me. But that's it. I love you guys. I hope you guys are great, and I will see you for our another yap session.